For 60 years, Martina McBride has been a musician. Her songs give individuals a voice when they need it most and are forceful and honest. She has never been scared to speak the truth before. Martina, what about her? She hasn't mentioned George Strait, who is popularly referred to be the king of country. They have been together for decades thanks to their shared stage glow, music, and kind words. However, Martina now teases something much deeper in a rare and candid moment, an aspect of their relationship that has never been revealed and that fans never imagined existed. Her statements give the impression that the well-rehearsed performances and meticulously maintained public personas have a backstory. There are lessons to be gained from this story, silent truths, and perhaps even a secret that could alter our perceptions of them. Making this connection public could alter our perception of the core of country music in addition to their reputations. Long before she sang in front of an arena or won honors, Martina McBride's journey began in Sharon, Kansas, a tiny town of 200 residents. According to tradition and the steady rhythm of agricultural life, people there led simple lives. She is the youngest of 4 children and was born on July 29, 1966. Her first recollections are of the hum of trucks on the plains, the sound of dairy cows, and the scent of wheat fields. She learned the value of hard work and humility from her parents, Daryl and Jean Schiff. Her singing career has been quietly supported by these lessons, but Sharon gave her something more valuable than grit. For her, it was music. Her father, Daryl, was more than a farmer. He led a local country band named the Shifters. It was not the glossy glow of television that taught Martina what it meant to act, but the clinking glasses, laughter, and banter of her neighbors. It was taught to her at county fairs, church socials, and community halls. She began singing in her father's band at the age of 7. She was shy at first, but she gained confidence over the years. She discovered her voice as an artist and a storyteller while standing on makeshift stages and gazing out at familiar faces. There was a lot of music in the Schiff house. Through the walls were records by Patsy Cline, Tammy Wynette, and Loretta Lynn, as well as George Jones and Merle Haggard. However, Martina was more than just a country singer. She became a versatile artist by absorbing pop tunes and rock bravado. Even as a young girl, she was aware that music had the power to captivate an audience and create a sense of calm. At the fair, every performance was more than a drill. It served as a trial run for the life she was destined to lead. By high school, Martina participated in talent shows, sang harmony, and played the piano. Her initial audience consisted of residents of a small Kansas village. She became a performer as a result of that experience and never lost sight of the value of interpersonal connections. Unlike many aspiring singers, she wasn't yet pursuing stardom. She had to learn how to evoke strong emotions in others. Her family's farm was constantly in need of a lot of labor, but she had a reason to live because of the time she spent performing music with her father. Her journey from Kansas to a larger stage took some time. When she was in her late teens, she started experimenting with new sounds. She performed with a local rock band in clubs in Wichita, putting her style to the test. She still enjoyed the storytelling tradition of country music, but rock music gave her more self-assurance on stage. She met John McBride at this period, a sound engineer who shared her enthusiasm for her job. Their thoughts were larger than Sharon's. In addition to being a personal matter, their marriage turned into her career's most significant factor. In 1989, Martina and John took the greatest gamble of their life. So they did. Nashville, the city where dreams were created or crushed, was their destination after leaving Kansas. Martina is a Kansas farm girl whose voice has been influenced by Kansas fields and community dances. This was her opportunity to transform her local talent into a career that would eventually position her as one of the most influential voices in country music. In 1989, Martina McBride and her spouse John loaded their belongings into a vehicle and headed to Nashville, Tennessee. For Martina, it was an opportunity to test whether the Sharon, Kansas girl, had the voice to be one of the top country singers. Newbies had a hard time in Nashville. There were talented folks in every bar and corner of the city, which was full with dreamers. Martina quickly discovered that succeeding in Music City required more than just a powerful voice. Relationships, time, and perseverance were necessary. The initial years were challenging. John found consistent employment as a sound engineer, but Martina struggled to establish herself. She worked at various occupations to keep them alive. At a Garth Brooks concert, one of them was selling merchandise. It was a private lesson, despite the fact that it didn't appear to be much. She wanted to understand Garth's stage presence, his interactions with his audience, and the importance of professionalism in addition to talent. Long after the shirts were folded and sold, she was still reminded of these lessons. But Martina refused to abandon her dream. At night, she composed, rehearsed, and performed whenever she could. People in the industry began to take notice of her gradually. Her major break came when she met RCA Records' Joe Galante. After hearing her sing, he was certain that her voice could be heard over the cacophony of Nashville. Her life will change drastically after she signed with RCA in 1991. Signing a record deal was the start of Martina's actual career. Although her 1992 first single, The Time Has Come, didn't reach the top of the charts, it was a crucial first move. It demonstrated that she was a good fit and had merited her position. She began to gain popularity gradually after that, and every new song enhanced her reputation as a strong vocalist. Nashville realized she wasn't just another hopeful, so she respectfully called her name. She was a rising star with the ability to evoke strong emotions in others. It wasn't only a struggle to survive during Martina's first few years in Nashville. They aided in her development as an artist. She became stronger with each job, each sleepless night, and each performance in a smoky club. Her voice eventually made its way outside of the city, telling the tale of a small-town girl who refused to let her troubles define her. Nashville tested her, but it also shaped her into the performer who would eventually take the stage with the king of country. George Strait established himself as the most conventional country music performer before Martina McBride ever joined him on stage. In 1952, Strait was born in Poteet, Texas. By adhering to the genre's foundations rather than chasing fads or trends, he established his career. George was already famous, but Martina had recently arrived to Nashville. He was dubbed the King of Country due to his huge list of hits, rich baritone voice, and polished cowboy persona. George stayed true to what made him successful: simple tales, vintage music, and being authentic, while other musicians evolved with the times. He never lied about who he was, which is why people liked and trusted him. By the time he announced The Cowboy Rides Away, his final tour, George Strait had more #1 hits than any other artist in history. Additionally, he has sold over 100 million records worldwide. His achievements were not merely remarkable. You couldn't touch it. The tour was more than just a series of performances, an opportunity for admirers to bid farewell to a man whose music had supported them through marriages, divorces, and daily life, as well as a farewell to an era. The tour was more than just a concert at every location. George's voice served as the background music for many people during this voyage. Tens of thousands of fans filled stadiums, and each person who attended understood they were a part of history. Being asked to accompany George on this journey was both a task and an honor for Martina. You were under more spotlight than most performers will ever experience when performing with the king, but it meant belonging to something greater than herself. It was more than a show. It was the conclusion of one of country music's greatest tales. The world changed too fast, but George Strait remained constant. He represented safety, tradition, and an unwavering love of music to the fans. When Martina prepared to join him on stage, she wasn't only preparing for another performance. She was preparing to see and participate in the end of a period that would permanently link her tale to his. When country music fans learned of George Strait's final tour, The Cowboy Rides Away, they felt they were seeing something significant. This was not merely a place for music. That evening, the king bid farewell. He had established the genre's sound for almost 3 decades. Supporters traveled thousands of miles from all across the nation to witness what would be a once-in-a-lifetime event. The arena was filled with memories, joy, and heartbreaking farewells, and each performance had an energy that was difficult to describe. Martina McBride, a significant visitor, was chosen to accompany George on this farewell tour, a decision that immediately increased the show's emotional impact. Being present was an honor and a significant milestone for Martina's achievement. She was already well known for her soulful ballads and strong vocals. However, traveling with George was unique since it allowed her to spend time with a legend as his live career came to an end. In addition to music, the shows also focused on history. Every syllable of George's songs, from Amarillo by Morning to Check Yes or No, was sung by his admirers. Additionally, Martina's performances struck the ideal harmony between beauty, force, and balance. Individual sets were not all that was provided to people. Two well-known individuals shared a story on stage in front of them. Behind the scenes, Martina felt the weight of the situation. In interviews, she expressed her admiration for George and his meticulous planning of every aspect of his performances. George was always committed, but it never looked like he was trying too hard, whether he was saying hello to fans or wrapping up a song. She was certain that maintaining a career in music for a long period required not only talent, but also self-control, humility, and an unwavering focus on the audience. The fact that Martina was on tour added interest for the fans. Before George returned with another timeless hit, her songs offered listeners a chance to reflect, and her vocals filled stadiums with song. She wasn't only an opener, according to the audience. She was a co-star in a highly significant farewell, someone whose abilities matched the significance of the occasion. On social media, images and videos of their joint performances went viral, bringing the magic outside the venues. The Cowboy Rides Away was more than simply a chance for Martina. For me, it was a significant moment. She was traveling on more than just a farewell trip. As the King of Country made his final bow, she was creating history by stepping into his shoes. He will always be connected to her narrative. George Strait's Cowboy Rides Away tour had many incredible moments, but the one that truly demonstrated how wonderful collaboration is was the night Martina McBride joined him on stage to sing the country classic Jackson. Billy Ed Wheeler and Jerry Lieber wrote the song in 1963, but it was made famous by June Carter and Johnny Cash. Two powerful personalities were necessary to make the song's playful, sarcastic attitude come to life. George and Martina were just that. George's smooth baritone and Martina's high soprano complemented each other so beautifully on stage that they didn't only cover a song, they transformed it into their own. Chemistry was immediately apparent. Martina battled back with a keen wit and a loud voice, portraying the angry wife, while George played the steady parts of a husband preparing to depart for Jackson. The lighthearted banter in the lyrics came to life between them as they performed. They sounded like steel and flint. There was more to it than a show. It was a fresh start for country history, storytelling, and drama. One of the highlights of the entire tour was the performance at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. As the two celebrities exchanged lines, a sizable audience applauded. Even experienced critics thought the way their voices blended odd. The moment's tweets and videos went viral, and fans hailed it as one of the decade's greatest live country duets. It was powerful for reasons other than just the singing. It was the feeling of authenticity. As always, George brought a unique sense of humor to the song's rugged cowboy persona, while Martina matched him with a powerful, poignant performance. Together, they were able to strike a healthy balance between the old and the modern. They made the song their own while paying homage to Cash and Carter's contributions. Critics hailed the duet as one of the tour's highlights. They emphasized how George's solid presence grounded the performance while Martina's exuberance enlivened it. The moment was thrilling, according to the fans, and the stadium temporarily changed its atmosphere to give everyone the impression that they were a part of something greater than themselves. The duet had greater significance than just the praise. Everyone had more than simply fun. It served as a conduit between eras, connecting the King of Country with one of its most influential female voices. For Martina, it was evidence that she was on par with George Strait, as an equal, not as a guest or to open the presentation. For George, it was an instance that demonstrated his admiration for Martina as a performer who could share the stage with him. During his last tour, Jackson was more than just a song. It was a declaration and a reminder that while one era drew to a close, the country vibe will continue to evolve through collaborations. The peaceful moments of the Cowboy Rides Away tour are what Martina McBride will remember most. Even if she and George Strait had some amazing duets on stage, the moments when the crowd stopped yelling and the lights went out. She frequently expressed her admiration for George's effectiveness. Despite his fame, he approached practices with the same tact and humility of a young artist attempting to establish himself. Martina recalls that George stayed to assist younger crew members with setting up their equipment during a late-night sound check rather than going to his dressing room. Because he was polite, gentle, and interested, he taught without making it feel like a lesson. When Martina watched this, she realized that his renown was more than simply his voice and hits. It resulted from the way he interacted with others. For her, it was rather unexpected. She saw in George a leader who made choices based on integrity, stability, and respect, rather than ego. According to Martina, working with him altered her perspective on her own career. Simply standing in the center of the stage and singing was insufficient. It dealt with how to behave stylishly when no one is looking. The more time she spent with George, the more she noticed these small details. Before taking the stage, backstage jokes were told, calmly discussing songwriting, even the fact that he remained composed in the face of adversity. Technical issues have occasionally nearly put a show on hold, but George never grew angry or lost his temper. He would reassure them, smile, and carry on as if nothing had occurred. Martina was able to see the King of Country's genuine nature beneath his facade. Like his celebrity, he was modest. These experiences not only inspired her to admire others, but they also challenged her to develop. She began to experiment more with her stage presence and harmonies. She discovered that being true meant more than just singing honestly, because George believed in her and was open to working with her. It also means leading an honest life. She developed both personally and professionally with each session, each giggle, and each quiet moment. Martina claimed that touring with George was more than just a significant turning point in her career after all these years. She learned some life lessons from it. To be an artist, you must be polite, patient, and aware that character is just as vital as skill. For Martina McBride, their work together on George Strait's Cowboy Rides Away tour swiftly evolved into something more intimate. A friendship that persisted long after the show ended, based on mutual respect, trust, and values. In a field where connections are sometimes fleeting and transactional, Martina saw a similar spirit in George. Someone who understood the burden of continuing a tradition, as well as what the company needed. They were linked by their constant support of one another, rather than by significant deeds. Martina frequently commented about how simple it was to be with George, and how conversations just flowed. Whether they were about family, music, or how difficult it is to be authentic in a world that constantly tries to be different. They demonstrated their closeness by being spotted together in public after the tour. At occasions like award shows, charity galas, and special performances, they were amiable and a pleasure to be around. Even when they weren't on tour, fans observed how they laughed together and how at ease they were performing live. It wasn't as though two celebrities were posing for the cameras. It was the genuine solace of companions who respected one another's personalities and artistic endeavors. George had a reputation for being reserved and rarely offered personal advice. Nevertheless, Martina had one of the greatest country music sounds, he assured everyone. Martina also never missed an opportunity to praise George's humility and steadiness, which she believed were unusual for a man of his quality. Not only were they buddies, but they also provided personal support to one another. Martina assisted George in his personal and charitable endeavors, while George was present to experience her significant moments. In private, Martina assured George that she could always rely on his counsel, not as a controlling instructor, but as a friend who understood how difficult life was for her. This connection gave her hope that genuine friendships could exist in a field where egos and competition are prevalent. They remained pals even after the Cowboy Rides Away tour finished years ago. This serves as a reminder that it is not music, but honesty and respect that bind musicians together. Martina was aware that her work depended on the trust she established with George. It was one of the most significant partnerships she had ever had, demonstrating that true legends leave behind more than just songs. They also leave behind enduring bonds with real people. Martina McBride, 60, is taking a rare chance to reflect on her life. She is recalling the work that brought her from the wheat fields of Sharon, Kansas, to the largest venues in country music, as well as the people and occasions that influenced her path. Martina no longer discusses accolades, chart success, or recognition. Rather, she speaks of gratitude, fortitude, and the lessons she has discovered. She remembers the young lady who battled to succeed in Nashville, the wife who depended on her husband's support, the artist who stood with George Strait as he took his final bow, and the girl from the tiny town who sang in her dad's band. She was transformed both as a performer and as a person by every aspect of the story. According to Martina, singing has never been about getting famous. It had to do with gathering. She first believed that music had the power to uplift, soothe, and heal. Every action she took was motivated by that notion. At 60, she is more aware than ever that she used her voice to tell her story and the experiences of her fans. However, when she discusses George Strait, her tone shifts. Martina acknowledges that sharing the stage with him altered the trajectory of her artistic career. His discipline, humility, and respect for the public inspired her to live a long life. She claims that after witnessing his methods, she began to focus more on creating work that endures than on chasing trends. They collaborated, and it became a significant aspect of her work. Not because it made her famous, but rather because it facilitated their friendship. In the professional world, where relationships are frequently fleeting, Martina discovered a stable presence in George. She was reminded by George that true talent requires respect and grace. As she looks to the future, Martina continues to see opportunities. She wants to support up-and-coming musicians, create new music, and advocate for women's voices in country music. She is as passionate about all of these things as she was when she first began performing. She wants to utilize her celebrity to inspire others the way she was inspired, not to silently fade away. Her reflection has a subtle revelation that has fans talking. She kept her connection with George Strait a secret for years. This might have been done to protect his privacy, or because some links are difficult to explain. However, Martina now suggests that their shared interests went further than anyone realized. It was a bond built on mutual respect, implicit trust, and a profound comprehension of what it means to devote one's life to music. Her comments to her supporters have multiple meanings. While some interpret it as a hint of a secret that might one day be revealed, others take it as an admission of a friendship that was stronger than anyone realized. Whatever the reality, Martina's reflections at the age of 60 teach us that the greatest legacies aren't records or songs that make it to the top of the charts, but rather the relationships that endure long after the last note fades. In retrospect, Martina realizes that every challenge, every victory, and every collaborative effort contributed to her current identity. As she continues, she also considers George Strait, her family, her faith, and her strength. She recently wrote about herself, and maybe her most striking comments were, "Every note, every collaboration, and every challenge has been part of a journey I am deeply grateful for." Is it possible that Martina's revelation regarding George Strait may ultimately alter our preconceived notions about the king of country?